In the darkest corners of human history, there are those who refuse to let the light of truth be extinguished. Aleksandr Solzhenitsyn was one of those individuals. A man who bore witness to the horrors of the Soviet regime. He spent his life exposing the brutal realities of totalitarianism, even when it came at great personal cost. Alexander Isaievich Solzhenitsyn was born on December 11, 1918, in Kislovodsk, Russia, just a year after the Bolshevik Revolution. His father died before he was born, leaving his mother, Tasia, to raise him. Despite their poverty, she instilled in him a love of learning and literature. Though Solzhenitsyn had a passion for writing, he chose to study mathematics and physics at Rostov State University, believing it was a safer career path in a country gripped by ideological purges. But his love for literature never waned, and he continued writing in secret, careful to avoid the prying eyes of Soviet censors. When World War II broke out, Solzhenitsyn joined the Red Army, serving as an artillery officer. He was a decorated soldier, committed to defending his homeland. But his belief in the Soviet system was already beginning to crack under the weight of its hypocrisies. In 1945, as the war was coming to an end, Solzhenitsyn's life took a dramatic turn. Letters he had written to a friend criticizing Stalin and the Soviet regime were intercepted. He was arrested and sentenced to 8 years in a labor camp for anti-Soviet activities. Solzhenitsyn was sent to the Gulag, a network of brutal labor camps where millions of political prisoners were worked to death. It was a place of unimaginable suffering, but also a crucible that forged his unshakable commitment to truth and justice. Amidst the backbreaking labor and relentless oppression, Solzhenitsyn found solace in his writing. He began composing what would later become some of the most important works of the 20th century. To avoid detection, he memorized much of his work, committing thousands of lines to memory. After serving his sentence, Solzhenitsyn was not truly free. He was sent into internal exile in a remote village in Kazakhstan, where he worked as a teacher. It was here that he began to recover from the physical and emotional scars of the Gulag, and where he wrote his first major work, One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. Published in 1962, One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich was a groundbreaking novella that detailed a single day in the life of a labor camp prisoner. The work was a thinly veiled account of Solzhenitsyn's own experiences and a damning indictment of the Soviet system. But Solzhenitsyn's success made him a target. As the Soviet Union reverted to a more repressive stance, his works were banned, and he was labeled an enemy of the state. Despite the danger, Solzhenitsyn continued to write, smuggling his manuscripts to the West. In the 1970s, Solzhenitsyn completed his magnum opus, the Gulag Archipelago, a monumental work that exposed the full extent of Soviet oppression. Based on his own experiences and those of hundreds of other prisoners, the book was a meticulously detailed account of the labor camp system. The publication of the Gulag Archipelago marked the beginning of the end for Solzhenitsyn's life in the Soviet Union. In 1974, he was arrested and deported to West Germany. Stripped of his citizenship, he became a man without a country. Exiled from his homeland, Solzhenitsyn settled in Vermont, where he continued to write and speak out against tyranny. His critiques were not limited to the Soviet Union. He also criticized Western materialism and the moral decay he perceived in capitalist societies. After 2 decades in exile, Solzhenitsyn returned to Russia in 1994, following the collapse of the Soviet Union. Though his homeland had changed, he remained a steadfast critic of political corruption and societal complacency. Aleksandr Solzhenitsyn passed away in 2008, but his legacy endures. His writings continue to inspire those who seek to understand the depths of human suffering and the resilience of the human spirit. Through his words, he reminds us that even in the face of unimaginable oppression, the pursuit of truth and meaning is an unyielding force.